What is up, guys? So this would be our Justice Ally tier list. For our criteria, we will not be holding being trade locked against an ally, so if an ally has a powerful effect for web warriors, we will evaluate that ally as if we're playing with a web warrior hero. So for the S tier here, these are allies that I think are auto-includes when you're playing the Justice aspect. A tier are for allies that are very good that I'm always trying to include when I'm building a deck. B tier are for allies that if I have an empty roster spot in my deck, these allies can easily fill in the spot. C tier are for allies that I think are situational at best, and in order to maximize their full potential, you really have to deck build around them and cater to them. D tier are for allies I don't think are very good at all. Usually there's another card or another ally that does what they do but a little bit better. Okay, so our first ally here is Agent Kosin. He's a 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 3 hit points. As a response, after Agent Kosin enters play, search your deck and discard pile for a preparation card and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. So, the cards that you usually want to get are either Spycraft, which is a preparation card, which can cancel another encounter card, or Counterintelligence, which is another preparation card, which can prevent a 3 threat from going on the main scheme. So Agent Kosin, I think his effect is very powerful, right? At worst, he's tutoring you back a resource that you use to pay for him. And then at best, he is giving you a cushion for whatever you need, right? That 3 threat may be the cushion that you need to flip down from counterintelligence, or the encounter card cancel may be the cushion that you need to flip down, or if you're close to winning the game, or if you are about to lose a game, that might save you. So I think that, I mean, just with this stat line, it's already very good, but adding in this effect as well, he is invaluable. And when I'm playing Justice, I'm always looking to include Agent Kosin. Actually, I think he's going to go in the S tier for me. So S tier, these are for allies that I think are like, for other aspects, Maria Hill, Nick Fury, Sunfire. And I think that for Justice, Agent Kosin is in the same ranks as those guys, because he's getting that Spycraft to your hand, which can help save the game entirely, right? It's tutoring specifically that card or whatever preparation card that you want. And maybe I am tying Kosin and giving him too much credit to Spycraft, when in fact they're 2 different cards, but I think that Kosin and Spycraft are very closely aligned to one another. They have very good synergy with each other. Spycraft, you need a spy character to play that card, but Agent Kosin is also your spy character that you need. And even if you're not playing a spy character, or if you're not playing shoot, I think Agent Kosin is still an amazing inclusion. I have him in my Spider-Man deck that I always use, and I mean, getting Kosin out and getting that Spycraft gives me that sense of security to make sure that I don't lose. So I think that, yeah, he is an amazing card that I think it's auto include in Justice. Okay, so our next ally here is Banshee. This is a 4-cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 hit points. As a response, after Banshee thwarts, confuse a minion. So his stat line here is not bad, but the effect is not very good. It's very situational at best, right? If you really want to maximize this effect, I would say he needs to come and play. You thwart, you confuse a strong minion that you can't kill for whatever reason. You're in alter ego, so the minion schemes. Then next turn he thwarts again, confuse the minion again. Same thing happens, the minion schemes because you're in alter ego. So you're basically spending 3 turns in alter ego and just having him thwart. And I think that's really the only way to maximize his full potential with his effect here, because it's so situational. And if you haven't, even then it's very low tempo, and it's a long time of just keeping him in play. And if you want to flip over to hero form and you want to flip back and you want him to do that thwarting because you want him to do that confusing, it's going to be even slower. So I think that he's kind of just a stat stick here. And for 4 costs, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 hit points, it's not terrible, but I think that there are better allies that have that type of stat line, and they have a better effect than this situational effect. So I'm going to put him in the C tier here. I think he's situational, and I think that if you get the perfect situation, he may be good, but other than that, he's not going to be an ally that I can just fill in an empty roster spot for. Okay, so next we have Bishop. He's a 3-cost ally with 2 thwart, 0 attack, but he takes 2 consequential damage for attack activations and 3 hit points. After an enemy attacks you, place 1 energy counter on him. Interrupt when Bishop attacks, remove each energy counter from him. For each counter discard this way, he gets +2 attack for this attack to a max of 6. So that is a very situation effect as well, and he's very, very slow as well. When an enemy attacks you, you put energy counter. So to get his full effect, it's similar to a Banshee here, where you want him to come in, thwart for 2, which is very, very good for 3 cost. And then you wait another turn. The villain attacks you during the villain phase. Then Bishop thwarts again the next turn. The villain attacks again, and then Bishop can swing for 4. Or if the villain activates again, he can swing for 6. Or you can just wait an extra turn to get the third counter for him to swing for 6. So definitely, if you are playing Bishop and you get him to thwart twice for a total of 4 thwart and then swing for 6, he is like, A tier. But unfortunately, I think that that situation is very, very rare unless you're purposely catering to it. So I think that I'm going to put him here in the C tier. And I do think he's a little bit better than Banshee because, at worst, they're both thwarting for 3. Thwarting 3 times, for 2. And Bishop is 1 cost cheaper, and a Bishop can swing pretty hard. And I think that Bishop, to maximize his effect, is easier than Banshee maximizing his, even though they're both very slow. But yeah, I think that Bishop is a better version. Okay. So next we have Blindfold. She's a 3 cost ally, 2 thwart, 0 attack, 2 hit points, so a terrible stat line. Response after Blindfold enters play, look at the top 5 cards of the encounter deck, discard one of those cards, and put the rest back in the same order. So this is an amazing effect, and it definitely makes up for the stat line here. Unfortunately, she can't attack, but it's not much of a drawback because you can play her for 3, have her thwart for 2, and then chump block. And I think that is a really good use of her stats. For her response, to look at the top 5 cards in the encounter deck, you can't change the order, but discarding one of those changes the entire order. So you don't have to discard the worst card. You can just discard a card that change the order of a nasty encounter card to make it a boost, or a nasty boost to make it an encounter card. So I think that Blindfold is an amazing Justice ally. She's gonna go A or S, and I'm gonna put her in A tier. I don't think that she's in the same ranks as Agent Coulson. I think that Agent Coulson is kind of just universally good because giving you that extra cushion is always going to be useful. Versus Blindfold, when I use that type of effect where I'm looking at the encounter deck, there's often times where I look at the deck and I just put it back in the same order because the cards were fine there anyways, or they're all bad and it doesn't matter what I change it to because either way I'm going to get something bad. So yeah, I think that her effect is very, very good, but at the same time, I don't think it's as good as Coulson's effect combined with his stats. But she's very, very close. Like, if she had good stats, she'd definitely be S tier. And obviously, you're not playing her for the stats. But I think that you kind of need good stats and a good effect to make it to the S tier. Okay, so next we have Captain Britain, 4 cost ally, 3 thwart, 3 attack, but he takes 2 consequential damage for each activation and 3 hit points. Captain Britain takes -1 consequential damage after he thwarts a side scheme or attacks a minion. So 3 thwart and 3 attack are actually really, really high stats, especially for 4 cost. Well, not especially for 4 cost, but they are just high stats. He effectively doesn't really have an effect, right? This effect is only helping him take less consequential damage, so it's almost a blank text box. But the conditions for it are actually pretty versatile, right? After he thwarts a side scheme or attacks a minion, if you're trying to control the board, there's usually minions or side schemes, and Captain Britain helps you with that. So if you're in a bad situation, he makes things a lot easier on himself because he's only taking 1 consequential damage, and maybe he can activate 2 or 3 times. So I think that he is definitely not a bad ally. I'm gonna put him in the B tier. If I have an empty spot in the roster, Captain Britain is more than welcome to slot in there. I think he's a very good ally. Okay, so next we have Cypher. This is a 2 cost ally with 1 thwart, 1 attack, and 2 hit points. As a response, after Cypher attacks and damages a confused enemy, draw a card. So, let's see. You want to play him with a deck that has a lot of confuses, right? And I think that he has a very powerful effect. He's only 2 costs, so this is an amazing stat line for a 2 cost ally, right? Just being super cheap, he can just come in, thwart or attack, and then take a chump block. But if you want to maximize his effect, you want to attack with him. You want to hit the confused enemy, draw a card, and then have him attack again before he gets defeated due to consequential damage and draw another card. So because he kind of locks you in that, I'm not the biggest fan of that. If you are playing Confused deck, I think that he's a lot better. I'm gonna put him in the A tier because he's a 2 cost and has a very good effect. And I can see that if you're building around that effect, I think he can be very, very powerful. But if you really want to maximize him, you have to buff him up as well and just give him more stats so he has more activations. Because if you don't, he's only going to swing twice and draw you 2 cards over 2 turns. So yeah, he could be good. He could be not as good. Um, yeah, I think that he's a definitely a solid ally if you're building around for it, and he can draw your card and then you have him get defeated by having him chump block, and you can recur him back. So there's definitely some uses for him. But I do think he's one of the better allies, but I don't think he's as good as Blindfold with her utility of being able to look at the encounter deck. Okay, so next we have Daredevil. He is a 4 cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 hit points. So this is an OG ally from the core box. As a response, after Daredevil thwarts, deal 1 damage to an enemy. So he's the same stat line here as Banshee, right? That 4 cost, 2 thwart, 2 attack, and 3 hit points. So that's not a terrible stat line. And I think that Banshee's effect is not that good. Daredevil's effect is actually good, right? If he's thwarting for 2, you can ping a damage off to an enemy, and this is not considered an attack. So it bypasses guard. It can ping off some toughs. So I think that Daredevil is better than Banshee, and I think he's actually a whole tier better because his effect is always going to be useful, right? No matter what situation you're in, you can always take that 2 thwart and have him ping a damage. And if you need him to attack for 2, he can attack for 2. I'm gonna put him at the end here just because he is 4 cost. The effect's not amazing. Silence not amazing. He's just serviceable if you have that empty roster spot. Okay, so next we have Dazzler. She's a 4 cost ally with 2 thwart, 2 attack, and 3 hit points. After Dazzler enters play, confuse an enemy. So this is a very, very powerful effect. She comes into play, she confuses an enemy. Obviously, if you're facing a steady or stalwart villain, her effect's not going to be as good. But yeah, I mean, this type of stat line, it's serviceable, and this effect, getting a confused in addition to having the ally out, I think is very valuable. I'm going to put her first in the B tier here. If I have an empty spot in my deck, she's more than welcome. If I'm facing like a steady star, then I probably won't put her in. But otherwise, I think that effect is very, very powerful. It's pretty much a Professor X effect, right? Yeah. So I mean, most people that play Professor X use him for the confuse. I think that's his most selected option, just like how Nick Fury's most selected option is drawing 3. So I mean, she effectively has just that option. 1 costs more, but she can stay in play, and she can thwart for 2 or attack for 2. So I think, yeah, she's definitely a good Justice ally. But once again, I'm not too big on the confuses. She is more expensive than Professor X, and a little bit less thwart, but a lot more attack. So I think that she's serviceable. I don't think that she's in the same ranks as these A tier allies here. But yeah, if I have an empty roster spot, she's more than welcome. Okay, so next we have Eros here. He is a 2 cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 2 hit points. Response after you play Eros from your hand, confusing a minion for each mental resource you use to pay for him. So we're confusing a minion. So I mean, first off, this stat line is amazing for being 2 cost. Unfortunately, this effect here is like Banshee's effect, where you're just confusing a minion. For minions, I usually don't care about stunning or confusing them. I want to get rid of them. So I rather do damage to them, like with Daredevil, where he can thwart and then ping off a damage somewhere. So his effect is almost, to me, irrelevant. But because of this amazing stat line, he goes in a B tier, right? Banshee has a stat line that other allies do better, like Daredevil and Dazzler. And Eros has a stat line that I don't think anyone else, even the allies above him, don't even have better stat lines, right? He has, I would say, if I could pick for the cost and the thwart and attack, he has the best stat line of the top 4 right now. But his effect is the worst out of the top 4. So that's why he just goes in B tier. If I have an empty roster spot for him, he is more than welcome. But yeah, I'm definitely not looking to include him unless I have that spot, because he is still a great 2 cost ally that can fill in any deck here. Okay, so next we have Pharaoh. She is a 4 cost ally with 2 thwart, 2 attack, and 3 hit points. So that same 4 cost, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 hit points that Banshee, Daredevil, and Dazzler have. I think that's pretty common in Justice, actually. As a response, after Pharaoh thwarts, discard the top card of your deck. For each resource icon discard sway, deal 1 damage to the villain. So I don't like how it's 1 damage to the villain, so you can't ping it off to a minion if you need to do some board control. It's only a few thwarts, but her thwarts are the same as her attack, so it's not bad. Um, yeah, I don't think she's that good. In like a domino deck or something like that, she might be very, very good, right? Because you can control what resource you discard. You can discard a double resource or triple resource. But other than that, I don't wanna discard my doubles and my triples, right? I save those in my hand. I wanna spend them to get out an expensive card. So I think that for me, she's gonna go also in the C tier. I think that she's better than Banshee, being able to do damage to the villain. She's not as good as Bishop. So yeah, I'm gonna put her here. I think that if you're really playing into her trope, I mean, she can be better, right? You're thwarting and doing, either 2 or 3 damage, but then you still have to have her activate 3 times, and you're losing those cards that other cards might have. If you're building a deck that has synergy with this card in the top part of your deck for resources, you probably have other cards that have good effects with that as well. So if Pharaoh is discarding those cards, then your other cards can't get that effect, right? So I think that she's gonna go into C tier for me. I think that if I have an empty spot, I would rather put a different ally in there. She's definitely not someone that I'm looking to put in just because she is quite expensive for that effect. That's not the best. Okay, so next we have Jack Flag. He's a 4-cost ally with 2 thwart and 1 attack, 3 hit points. So he has a little bit worse of a setline than everyone else, right? They all have the 4-cost, 2 thwart, 3 hit points, but he has 1 less attack than them. As a response, after Jack Flag thwarts, place 1 ammo counter on him. Hero action, so you must use this only in hero form. Exhaust Jack Flag and remove 1 ammo counter from him. Do 2 damage to an enemy. So this is nice because you can do damage to any enemy, and it's nice because he doesn't have to take damage to trigger this effect. But that does make him very, very low tempo, just like Bishop here. So I think he's similar to Bishop. Let's see, Bishop can thwart for 2 twice. Jack Flag can thwart for 2 twice, and then Jack Flag can remove 1 ammo counter and do 2 damage to an enemy. And then Bishop can swing for 4 or swing for 6. But actually, so I was thinking about putting Jack Flag in the C tier, right? But looking at it, he's a Guardian. Bishop is X-Men, but that doesn't matter because we're evaluating them as if they're the same traits. Jack Flag is going to go in the D tier here. I don't think he's good at all, especially because of Bishop. Bishop just does what he does better, right? Because they can both just thwart. They're both very low tempo, right? You have to keep them in play for a long time, and Jack Flag can exhaust twice to do that 2 damage. So for a total of 4, Bishop can swing for 4 in one go or swing for 6 in one go. So I mean, even if they had the same cost, I would pick Bishop's effect, but Bishop is 1 cost cheaper. So I mean, Bishop just fills in what Jack Flag does. So I think because there's an ally or a card that does exactly what Jack Flag does, but better, well, not exactly, but to what, like the approximation of what Jack Flag does, I think that he's gonna go in the B tier, the D tier for me, unfortunately. But he looks very cool. So next we have Jessica Jones. She is a 3-cost ally with 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 hit points. Jessica Jones gets +1 thwart for each side scheme in play. So she is another core set OG Justice ally, just like Daredevil here. And I mean, her effect is so good, right? This stat line is already super duper good. It's just like Agent Coulson's stat line, but instead of the 2 thwart, it's 2 attack. But her effect gives her an extra thwart for each side scheme in play. Usually there's going to be at least 1 side scheme in play, especially if you're in a situation where you're losing, right? Which is most of the time for me. So I want to have those side schemes in play. I mean, I'm going to have those side schemes in play. So her thwart will be much higher. It will be at least 2, maybe 3, especially with player side schemes. Now you can play your own side scheme and buff up that thwart. And then a lot of villains just have side schemes for their when reviewed effects. Like you just pull a side scheme from the encounter deck and put it into play. So I think that Jessica Jones is super duper good. She's gonna definitely go in the A tier for me, and I think she's definitely better than Cypher because she can thwart for like 3, 4, 5, 6 in multiplayer. Right, you're gonna have so many side schemes, and then I don't. It's very close. Do I like? Oops, not there. But I think I like, because I'm trying to consider if I'm playing a Justice deck, would I want to put in Jessica Jones or Blindfold? And I just feel like Jessica Jones does more what I need, right? Like she's impacting the board presence, which is usually what I want for my ally. And yeah, I think it's very, very close. And I think it's very based on your own perspective. But I like that board control that Jessica Jones provides, right? That's one of the reasons why I like Coulson so much, is because when you get that Spycraft out, you have a like permanent board control type of like card, well, not permanent, but one that just stays in play. And if you ever get anything that messed up your board, like a guard minion where you need to defeat the villain, or like, a super nasty side scheme, right? You can just spycraft that right out. So I like having that board control, especially in Justice. So I think Jessica Jones is invaluable for that. And then she can also swing for two, right, to do some damage if you need that to a minion. So she's just very, very versatile, very good effect, and a good cost for her stat line and everything. Okay, so next we have Lady Spider. She's a 4 cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, but she takes 2 consequence damage for each activation. She has 4 hit points. So this is a worse stat line than the basic 4 cost, 2, 2, and then 3 hit points, right? Because she's taking 2 consequence damage even though she has one more hit point at 4 hit points. But at the same time, this is a better stat line than taking 1 consequence damage and just having 2 hit points, because she has more hit points to at least soak some damage in terms of like indirect damage or something like that. So I think that, still not a good stat line. This stat line is definitely below what I want from an ally that's 4 cost. As a response, after Lady Spider thwarts, and removes threat from a scheme, if you control another Web Warrior card, remove an equal amount of threat from a different scheme. So we're going to be evaluating her as if we were playing with the Web Warrior hero. So that means we pretty much almost always have the Web Warrior card in play. So if she thwarts from any scheme, she can remove another 2 from another scheme. I think that's very powerful. She comes in for 4 costs, can thwart for 4, and next turn thwart for 4 again. So I think that is a very powerful effect. I'm putting in the B tier, right? If I'm playing Web Warrior Justice, I'm not itching to include her, but if I have an empty spot in my roster, she can easily fit in. And I like her more than Captain Britain. Yeah, for the Web Warriors. And then I don't think she's as good as Dazzler coming in to get that confused off. So I definitely think that she's a little bit closer to Captain Britain than Dazzler is to her. So the gap between Dazzler and Lady Spider is a little bit further than Lady Spider and Captain Britain. But yeah, I think that the two of these guys are very close, right? He has a very nice 3-3 stat line, but at the same time, Lady Spider can help you control the schemes if there's a bunch of schemes in play. Just doing 2 twice, like a 4 threat removal amongst 2 schemes, is very, very good. Okay, so next we have Marvel Girl. She is a 3 cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 3 hit points. Interrupt when Marvel Girl attacks a minion. Remove X threat from the main scheme where X is equal to that minion's printed scheme. Okay, so her stat line is not bad, right? It's similar to Coulson's, except you switch to thwart and attack. So I like the stat line. The interrupt is a little bit annoying because it's whenever she attacks a minion. So first, there must be a minion play, and she must attack it. Well, she has 2 thwart and 1 attack, so it's going to feel bad every single time you try to trigger this interrupt because you're not utilizing her 2 thwart. You have to use her 1 attack. And remove X threat from the main scheme where X is that minion's printed scheme. So, you definitely want to be attacking if there's a minion play because you can do a damage to the minion. Then remove at least 1 threat, possibly 2 if the minion has more scheme. Yeah, that effect I think kind of hurts her. I think a lot of times whenever you're playing her, you want to just have her thwart for 2. So I'm gonna put her in front of Daredevil. Actually, let's take a look again. You have to remove extra from the main scheme, so she can only remove that there from the main scheme as well. She has to attack a minion. It's just a lot of conditions for her. So I definitely like Captain Britain more. Right, being able to thwart for 3 or swing for 3 is gonna be a lot better than this, even though he's more expensive. And then do I like Daredevil more? If I have Marvel Girl and Daredevil, yeah, I think that, they're very, very close to me. It's just Marvel Girl is a little bit cheaper. She can still do a damage and remove threat if you have a minion in play for that board control. Yeah, the thing is, Daredevil is thwarting for 2, doing 1 damage. She's doing 1 damage and removing a threat from the scheme. And then that's the worst case scenario, right? She might be to remove 2 threat or 3 threat. It has to be from the main scheme, but they have very, very similar effects. if they're thwarting, they have the same effect, right? Because then their effects don't activate whenever they're thwarting. So if you're just using for their thwarting stat, then she's better. If you utilize their effect, it depends on how strong the minion scheme is. So I'm gonna put her a little bit above Daredevil, I mean. But yeah, they're actually very similar, except she's cheaper and has one less attack. Okay, but if she had that attack though, she would be amazing because this stat line would be a 2/2/3 stat line would be amazing for 3 costs, and then utilizing that attack with this, like maybe if she had 1 Thor 2 attack, I think she would be a lot better. Probably for sure better than Captain Britain as well, because then you could trigger this a lot, where you're hitting for 2 and then removing threat from the main scheme. Okay, so next we have Monica Chang. She's a 3 cost ally, 1 Thor 1 attack, 2 hit points, so absolutely terrible stat line for a 3 cost ally. But as a response, after Monica Chang enters play, search your deck, hand, and discard pile for a copy of the surveillance team support. Put it into play. Place 1 snoop counter on each surveillance team you control. So, if you are playing her with a bunch of shield cards and you have like 1 surveillance team or more out, she is refunding you a snoop counter on all of them, which is so good, especially when you're playing shield. And then her other effect, what's so nice about it is that it's when she enters play, right? Not when she enters play from your hand. Search your deck, hand, and discard pile. A lot of cards only do the deck and discard pile. Some only do discard pile, right? She does everything. So no matter what, if you have a surveillance team, whenever you're deck building, she's gonna get it out, and not just to your hand. She puts it into play. It comes in with 3 snoop counters, but she's gonna place 1 on that one as well, right? Because this happens after that. So it will come in with 4 pretty much, and then she can Thor for 1, have the surveillance team remove 1 threat. So pretty much throwing for 2, and take a chump block, and the surveillance team will stick around to do more. And I think we have to evaluate her as we're playing shield. So if you're playing shield, I mean Monica Chang, is she an auto include? Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Is Monica Chang an auto include if you're playing shield justice? I think she is. And it's a little bit hard to say because she works also if you're not playing shield, right? If you're not playing shield, you can just use her and include 1 copy of a surveillance team in your deck, and then she'll bring it out, and that's still a great effect. But if you do that, she's probably like B tier or A tier. But if you're playing shield, I mean, the shield cards synergize so well with having these support cards out, these shield supports, because you need to exhaust them for all the other shield cards effects. So yeah, I mean, I think that if you're playing shield, Monica Chang is as essential to a shield deck as like, I don't know, Ghost Spider is to a Web Warrior deck, or Spider-Man Peter Parker is to a Web Warrior deck. And then I think I put Agent 13 in A tier. I think Monica Chang is better than Agent 13 for shield, because Agent 13 is 4 cost, she's helping you ready up, but Monica Chang is getting you that card into play for that high tempo, and she's adding 1 snoop count to every surveillance team that you already have. So if you have like 3, then she'll give you 3 more threat right there, by adding 1 counter on each one. So just that longevity and the synergy with shield makes her invaluable. I'm gonna put her in the S tier here. I don't like her as much as Coulson even for shield, because I mean Coulson is shield as well. We're not really evaluating that way, but I mean he's shield as well. And then again, that Spycraft is, I think that cushion is just one of the best things in the game, having that safety net. Yeah, but I think she's an S tier ally. Okay, so next we have Spider-Man right here, Pavitri. So he is a 3 cost ally with 1 thwart, 1 attack, 3 hit points. Absolutely terrible stat line. I don't know why all the Web Warriors Injustice, like Lady Spider and Pavitri, have bad stat lines. So as a response, after Spider-Man enters play, remove 1 threat from his scheme for each Web Warrior card you control, including himself. So when he enters play, not just play from hand, but anytime he enters play, so even if you use Across the Spider-Verse, he's always going to remove 1 threat from a scheme. You can pick any scheme. It doesn't have to be the main scheme or a side scheme. And then he can immediately Thor for 1 as well. So he's effectively Thoring for 2 on that first turn. Except this one bypasses Patrol, right? So yeah, I mean, this is a super powerful effect. Assume that you are playing a Web Warrior hero, and we're going to be assumed that we are, because, you know, we're evaluating them as if we're playing with that traded hero. So he's going to be doing at least 2 threat removal, right? Because himself and your identity. Probably you have the Web Life Nesting. That's going to be 3 Web Warrior cards for 3 threat removal. And if you have 1 more ally, it's 4. If you're max loaded, then it's going to be 5 threat removal, just getting this 3 cost ally into play. And I think that burst is invaluable. I'm going to put him, I think he goes in A tier. If I'm playing If I'm playing Web Warrior Justice, I am looking to include Pavitri here. Yeah, he has an amazing effect. He's doing so much threat removal and he doesn't even have to activate. It's just when he comes into play. So yeah, I think he's very, very powerful. Um, do I think he's as good as Cypher? I think he's better than Cypher. I'm gonna put him actually above Cypher here. And yeah, I mean, they're very similar, right? So we're evaluating Cypher as we're playing with a confused deck, and Pavitri as we're playing with the Web War deck, but Pavitri is just removing so much threat. Early game, I mean, if he removes one, two, or three threat early game, that's super valuable. Late game, he can do five because you're all set up, which is super valuable as well. Cypher, you need to confuse an enemy, have him attack, right? He takes a counter damage. He can only do that twice unless you do a whole bunch of stuff to buff him up. And if you do that, if you have him activate twice, like attack twice, he can't chump block for you. But Vitri can still chump block after coming in, removing 5 threat, then thwarting or attacking for 1. So, yeah, and he can stay another turn if you want him to. So I think he's gonna be better than Cypher for me. Yeah, but I think they're both very, very good. But yeah, Pavitri is so good, and he's not gonna be blindfold level. I don't think, yeah, because blindfold, I mean, the utility there is just crazy. Okay, and then his stat line's not good enough to really push him over. Okay, so next we have Quake. She's a 2-cost ally with 1 thwart, 2 attack, 2 hit points. Amazing stat line for 2 costs, right? Having that 2 attack is invaluable. And then she only takes 1 consequential damage for each activation, so very, very good stat line. Her effect is as a response after a minion schemes, exhaust Quake, deal 2 damage to that minion. So this is a situational effect, but I do like that you're not confusing the minion, you are doing damage to them after they scheme. Unfortunately, it happens after they scheme, so the scheme will still go off. But I think that she's a very good effect that I've used a lot, especially against Ronin, right? Like if there's, well, not just especially against Ronin, but let's just say there's a 4-cost minion. You can play Quake. She swings for 2, takes 1 damage. She has 1 hit point left. Then during the villain phase, if you're an alter ego in the minion schemes, you can just exhaust her. She stays alive, and you defeat that minion. The next turn, you can have her, take a chump block or something like that. So I think that that is very, very useful. But even if it wasn't, she is still a B tier ally just because of her style line. And I do like her effect actually more than Arrows here. So I'm gonna put her first in a B tier, right? Being a 2-cost justice ally. If I have an empty spot in my roster, she is more than welcome. This effect won't get triggered all the time, but there are useful situations for it. But I mean, I where she's a 2-cost ally with 1 thwart, 2-cost ally with 1 thwart, 2 attack, and 2 hit points, which is already going to be great. Okay, so next we have K-Star. He's a 3-cost ally with 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 hit points. So good stat line for being 3 cost. Similar to Coulson, except switching the thwart and attack. Response after K-Star enters play, remove 1 threat from each scheme in play. So this is a very, very good effect. He's just pinging 1 off of each scheme. Now this is a very, very good stat line. If you have a bunch of side schemes in play, if you're in a very bad situation, he can remove 1 for each one. He's only throwing for 1 though, so he's not going to help you clear anything, but just helping you if you can get close to clearing them. He's going to definitely contribute with that 1 to every single one. 1 to every side scheme, I mean. So he goes into A tier. I think he's a really, really good justice ally. I think he's better than Spider-Man Pavitri here. He has the same stat line as Jessica Jones. They're actually very similar, right? Because they're both of their effects are dependent on side schemes being in play. Because yeah, K-Star is removing more threat. He doesn't have to activate. Jessica Jones does have to activate. But I like Jessica Jones more because she has a more concentrated threat removal. If you're really in that situation where you are, just getting consumed by side schemes, having Jessica Jones do like a 5 thwart, I think is more valuable than K-Star removing 1 threat from 5 different schemes, like the 4 schemes plus the main scheme, right? So even though they're both removing 5 schemes or 5 threat, well, K-Star can thwart for 1 more and do 6. But actually, now that I'm saying like that, yeah, but I think the concentrated threat removal is a little bit better. But K-Star is very, very good. Do I like him more than Blindfold? Yeah, I do like K-Star more than Blindfold. I think K-Star is a very, very good ally. It's really hard to say because they have such different effects. Do you value the utility of Blindfold or Kesar and Jessica Jones affecting that board state. I definitely like Jessica Jones more than Kesar, but I think I'm gonna put Kesar above Blindfold because I like to just affect that board state a little bit more um, than look in the encounter deck. Yeah, I think it's different with Spycraft. With Spycraft, you don't need to look at the encounter deck. You just wait till something bad comes out and get rid of it. Blindfold is you're looking at the encounter deck for one turn. And then, I mean, for the top 5 cards, which could be one turn, it could be 2 turns. And, if you get really lucky with how the villain gets their boost cards and everything, it could be potentially 3 turns of a boost. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they're super duper close. I think you can definitely argue for Blindfold being better than them, but I like Jessica Jones and Kesar a lot. I'm put them above Blindfold, just barely in the A tier. Okay, so next we have Speed. 4 cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 4 hit points. So not the best outline. As a response after Speed, thwarts ready him. So really, 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 really good effect. He can thwart for 2, ready, thwart for 2 again. It's only once per round, right? But he still can do 4 thwart removal in 1 turn. And unlike Lady Spider, he can do it from the same scheme. So I'm gonna put him right above Lady Spider. I think they're very, very similar, right? Um, I don't think he's as good as Dazzler coming in with that confuse, but he's very, very similar to Lady Spider. Each one has an advantage that the other one doesn't have, right? So I mean, Lady Spider can swing for 2, Speed can't. Speed can only swing for 1, but Lady Spider can thwart a scheme, a side scheme, and if there's a patrol in play, she can remove threat from the main scheme with her effect, which bypasses the patrol. Speed cannot bypass patrol, right? So he has to do concentrated threat removal. But if there's 4 threat only on one side scheme that you want to get rid of, Speed can do all that threat removal on that side scheme for you. So yeah, I think they're situational, but I think that Speed is definitely better. Yeah, being able to thwart for more, and concentrate on one scheme. Okay, so next we have Spider-Man, Peter Parker, 5 cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 4 hit points. So very high cost, but a very good sideline if the cost wasn't so high. Um, yeah, if he was 4 cost, this would be amazing because of the 4 hit points, but being a 5 cost is crazy. As a response, after you play Spider-Man from your hand, so you must play him from your hand, remove 3 times player threat from a side scheme. So obviously he is much better in multiplayer. He can do up to 12 threat removal from a side scheme. In solo, he's only doing 3. So this tier list is kind of like combining solo and multiplayer as we're evaluating these allies. So it's hard for me to rank him. I don't like that's only from a side scheme. It would be really powerful if he could do it from the main scheme as well. But he's probably clearing out a side scheme if you're getting him out. Because side schemes usually come in like 3 times player threat. So in multiplayer, they have like 12. In solo, they will have 3. So he'll just pretty much clear that out. I'm going to just put him here in the B tier because I'm just going to average it out, right? If you are playing 4 players, he's S tier. If you're playing 3 players, he's like A tier to S tier. If you're playing 2 players, he's probably B tier. If you're playing solo, I mean, he might be C tier, if not D tier, right? 5 cost. You have to play him from your hand, so you can't use a like call for backup. If you're like playing with a different player, right? You can't use the size these player size scheme that gets out an ally. So like, yeah, I don't know. I think that actually I think no, call for backup is that one, right? I don't remember the name, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just you're playing from your hand. It's only from a side scheme, so I'm putting him here in the B tier, and it just kind of depends how many players that you're playing, right? If you're playing in multiplayer, he goes up. If you're playing solo, then he'll go down. So I think B tier is a good spot for him for right now. Okay, so next we have Spider Woman, Jessica Drew. 3 cost ally, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 hit points, but she takes 2 consequential damage for attack activations. Reduce the cost to play Spider Woman by 1 for each confused enemy in play. So, once again, it's the confused enemies, right? So that means that you want to ideally have some confused minions too. If you can play her for free, I think she's super valuable. If you have to pay 3 for her, she's not terrible because of her stat line. It's not a bad stat line for a 3 cost ally, but she definitely drops a lot. So for the worst case scenario, she's like last in B tier, right? If you're not getting this confused off. If you can pay her for 2, I think she's very, very good. So assuming the rare times that you do get her situational effect, and I guess it's not that rare, right? If you're playing her in a confused deck. So I'm gonna put her, I think I'll put her here. Yeah, cause yeah, if you're just paying her for 3 costs, I think that she goes behind Daredevil. But if you can maximize her potential, getting her to just 2 costs, then she'll go way up. And if you can get her for like, if you get her to 2 costs, she's probably like around like speed, between speed and dazzler. If you can get it for 1 cost, I mean she goes even more high. If you can get it for 0, I mean she's like, and for 0 cost ally, that's S tier, right? Even without having no, I think she needs an effect, but it's definitely like high A tier if she's 0 cost. That would be insane. Um, but yeah, I mean it's a situational effect. I think that her floor is still gonna be B tier no matter what, so I'll put her just in the middle of B tier because if you can't get that effect and she's very good, I think the effect might be a little bit harder to come by. But if you are playing a heavy confused deck, I think it could be easier to get it. Okay, so next we have Venom. He's a 4 cost ally with 2 Thor, 3 attack, but he takes 2 consequence damage for each activation, 4 hit points. While there is no threat on the main scheme, reduce all consequence damage Venom takes by 1. So he can potentially have 4 activations if you're constantly clearing out the main scheme. Um, yeah, he is not terrible, right? 3 attack is very, very high, even for a 4 cost ally. I'm putting him in the B tier. I think that if you have an empty roster spot for him, he can fill in that spot. If you have threat on the main scheme, he's not going to be here. Yeah, I'm going to put him just last, right in front of the multiplayer solo guy in Spider-Man Peter Parker. Because I like Daredevil more. Daredevil can always get this effect off, right? And he can do 3 activations. Venom can possibly do 2 if they're starting the main scheme. And whenever I'm evaluating these allies, I do value being able to help your game in a losing situation more than if you're already winning, right? Venom's great if you're already winning and you have the main scheme cleared out. Captain Britain, which has the same 3 attack, helps you more whenever you're losing because he can thwart a side scheme or thwart or attack a minion and take 1 less consequential damage, right? If you are winning with Venom, he's gonna be taking 1 consequential damage, but if you're losing, because there's a lot of threat on the main scheme that you can't clear, then he's taking 2 consequential damage, so he only has 2 activations. So yeah, I for that reason I'm gonna put him last here in the B tier, but I think he's still serviceable. I think this 3 attack is very, very good for being 4 cost. So he's definitely an ally that I can put in a deck coming into swing for 3, but I don't think that, yeah, if you can get his effect where he takes 1 consequential damage, swinging for 3 4 times is very, very good. So yeah, it just kind of depend on if you can take advantage of his effect. Okay, so next we have Wasp. She's a 2 cost ally with 2 thwart, 1 attack, 3 hit points, and she takes 2 consequential damage for thwart activations. Play only if your identity has a champion trait, so we will evaluate her as if we were playing with a champion hero. Wasp ignores the guard keyword, patrol keyword, and crisis icon. So the effect is good. It's definitely a positive effect, but it's not like crazy or anything like that. There can definitely be situations where it is very good. I'm gonna put her. She will either go first in the B tier, but at the same time, this stat line, 3 hit points for 2 cost. Even though she takes 2 consequential damage, it's not bad at all because she has 3 hit points. Yeah, but I think that I will like her because the trend that I've been doing with the other aspects is that if you just have a good stat line for a 2 cost ally, they don't make it to the A tier. You need to have that stat line be 2 cost and have a good effect. Her effect isn't amazing. It's situational, just like Quake and Arrows here, right? Because the times that you need to bypass guard or patrol, it's not going to be that often where like it's like game changing, I mean. So because either way, you still usually want to get rid of that patrol, you still want to get rid of that crisis, you still want to get rid of that guard. But bypassing crisis is crazy because crisis means that threat cannot be removed from the main scheme. So that's a pretty rare effect though. But yeah, I'm gonna put her leading up here in the B tier. If you're playing champion, I think that she can easily fill in any empty roster spot, but she's not gonna be one of these A tier allies that are doing like huge things for you. Okay, So next we have Wiccan. He's a 2-cost ally again, so very cheap. 1 thwart, 1 attack, and 3 hit points. As a response, after Wiccan thwarts, discard top card of the encounter deck. For each boost icon discard this way, deal 1 damage to an enemy. So this is to any enemy, so you can kind of choose where it goes, kind of like Daredevil's effect. For each boost icon discard this way. So this is not a forced response. You don't have to trigger it, but why not? There's no bad thing in triggering it, right? If you discard the top card of the encounter deck. Yeah, I mean, 2 costs, 3 hit points. He has 3 activations. He is going to be good. I'm going to put him, he's either first in B or last in A. Let's see. So if you're having him, it's after he thwarts, right? If you have him thwart, discard the top card of the encounter deck, and it's like a 3 boost. You can do 3 damage to a minion or the villain. Oh man, he's going in A. That is a very powerful effect. I think I actually like him more than Cypher's draw power for confused enemies, because yeah, I mean, it is a little bit luck dependent, right? If you just get a bunch of zero boost cards from the encounter deck, then he's just activating 3 times. But at the same time, this stat line is already going to be a B tier type of stat line, because he has 3 hit points, which is very high for 2 costs. He can activate 3 times, so it's already in the B tier, and then like around here in the B tier, right? And then if you can somehow like get the luck where you're discarding like triple boost icons like 1 time, like that's already way worth it. He's worth it without that, but that makes him more worth it if you can get like, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 boosts. He's doing so much damage too, in addition to his thwart, his 1 thwart. So yeah, I think he has very high potential, and his floor is very high as well. So I'm gonna put him in the A tier. I do like him a little bit more in Cypher. He doesn't have the control that Pavitri has, just coming in and doing a crazy amount of threat removal. So I do like Spider-Man a little bit more than Wiccan, but I mean, Wiccan's a very good Justice ally. Okay, so next we have Wolfsbane. She's a 3-cost ally with 2 thwart, 1 attack, and 3 hit points. As a response after Wolfsbane thwarts, name a card type. Then discard the top card of your deck. If that card is of the name type, you may add it to your hand. So you have her thwart for 2. So I like that her thwart stat's higher than her attack stat. Her stat line is good. It's like Coasting except switched, right? So I like that it's synergy with the thwarting, right? If she had 1 thwart and 2 attack, that would be very annoying. Similar to Marvel Girl, where it's like flipped from the way that you want it. And discard top card of your deck. If it's of the name type, you can add it to your hand. So it's drawing a card, right? At worst, you can just say event or like, you know, upgrade or like whatever you want to get, and she can get you that card. This is not a force response, so you don't have to trigger her effect if you don't want to. She definitely goes into B tier. I think that if you have an empty roster spot for Wolfsbane, you definitely want her in there. And I think, because compare her to Marvel Girl, she's throwing for 2 and potentially drawing you a card. But Marvel Girl's effect is a little bit more consistent, because Marvel Girl, if she hits a minion, no, oh, they're both not consistent. Because if you don't have minions, then she won't do anything. So yeah, I'm gonna put Wolfsbane here. I think she just slightly edges Marvel Girl. If you're playing a deck where you can manipulate the player deck like a domino, I think that Wolfsbane is gonna be super duper good. Actually, do we need to evaluate? No, I'm not gonna evaluate her in a deck that we are manipulating that, because throwing for 2 and then, no, maybe I should. Maybe it's unfair that I don't evaluate her that way. Yeah, okay, so I mean, we're gonna evaluate. No, it's hard because Wolfsbane, she's an X-Force ally. She's gonna be going into a lot of decks where you're not just playing that style, right? And we talked about trait locked, so this isn't necessarily trait locked. It's just the way that she prefers to play is that you want to know what the top card of your deck is. So I'm gonna put her here in the B tier, but definitely if you're playing a deck, probably just Domino, off the top of my head, but a deck where you know what the top card of your deck is, Wolfsbane is like S tier, because she's thwarting, and then she's drawing you that card, right? You can get that card in your hand, definitely. And yeah, but if you don't, if you're just gonna randomly use her effect and like guess upgrade or whatever, she's still serviceable. I think that these allies are gonna be a little bit better, but I think that her stat line is still good, and she can still do whatever you need her to do. Okay, so our last ally here is Wraith. He is a 3-cost ally, 1 thwart, 3 attack, but takes 2 consequential damage for attack activations. but that's super high attack for 3 costs. I don't know if we have another ally there that has 3 attack for just 3 cost. 3 hit points, Hero Interrupt. When a boost card is turned face up, exhaust Wraith and deal 1 damage to him. Cancel that card's boost effect. So it is a little bit unfortunate. This is a Hero Interrupt, so you can't use it in Alter Ego. When a boost card's turn face up, exhaust Wraith. So you have to exhaust him and he has to take a damage. So if you have him attack and a boost card comes up, you have to exhaust him and deal a damage and cancel that boost effect. If he is defending for you, he is exhausted because he's defending, and you get a nasty boost effect, he cannot cancel it because he's already exhausted. Yeah, and then if he attacks and he dies, taking that 1 damage. I don't know, it's a little bit counter. But at the same time, his stat line, like at the lowest, his stat line is good, right? Being a 3 cost ally with 3 attack, he can come in and potentially swing for 3, which may help a lot, and then he can also chump block. So I think I actually like him more than Spider Woman here. Do I like him as much as these guys? Come in, swing for 3. I mean, and at worst, I mean not at worst, but if you want, you can actually have him just stay in play and just cancel out nasty boost cards, right? Just have him take a damage, cancel the boost effect. So I mean that utility is very, very good. I'm gonna put him higher. I'm gonna put him right behind Dazzler. So I think Dazzler's still stronger, coming in and just confusing an enemy, probably the villain. But Wraith, I mean, he can cancel a lot of nasty boost effects for you, which can also be invaluable. So yeah, I think he's better than Speed. He can swing for 3, which is still great, and then he survives to take a chump block for being 3 costs. He's a very, very good ally. Okay, yeah, so this is our Justice Ally tier list. So we have 2 allies in the S tier. We have 6 allies in the A tier here. The majority is in the B tier, which I think is normal. And then we have a few allies that I don't like as much as the other ones. Yeah, okay, so this is my Justice Ally tier list. Let me know what you guys think, if you agree or disagree with anything, and tell me what you guys would change. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.